Well, hello, Freedom Seekers. I'm excited to be here with you tonight. This will be the last Monday night briefing or weekly report that we do this year. I think it's, let me just take a quick look here because I think it's like number 32. And yes, it is. It's week number 32. We've been here Monday nights between 8 and 8:30 to do a live stream for 32 weeks now. And I'm going for 104. That's 2 full years. And so I'm excited to be here every Monday night. And tonight I've got something really great planned, and that I kind of, been working into it for the last 2 weeks. So if you haven't seen the last 2 weeks Monday night weekly reports, then you want to go back and catch those, because I'm really doing a series about the power of words, and specifically how you can use the power of words in your life to create a life that is much fuller and much more abundant in satisfaction and pleasure than what it is today. And so I'd love to have you go back, and if you didn't catch those last 2 weeks, then kind of get caught up on those after you've watched tonight's video, and then come back and join us for the next couple weeks, because this will be a 4 or a 5 week series that I'm doing here. And so I'm excited to be here tonight for this series. This will be a little shorter night tonight. And so it'll be about 40. I'm going to shoot for 45 minutes is what I'm shooting for. I usually shoot for an hour, and sometimes I've gone over an hour. Tonight I'm shooting for 45 minutes. So I hope that you'll go ahead and stick around here with me. And thanks for joining me here tonight. And if you want to have any, if you have any questions as I can go on and what have you, please go ahead and post a question in the comments, and I'll be happy to address your questions. I don't always address them right away. I wait until I'm at a place where it's easy for me to do that. But I will go ahead and address your questions and your comments. To start out with, you can make a comment about telling me a bit about yourself. Tell me where you're from or viewing from, and that way it helps me to know more about my audience. Now, the last little bit of housekeeping I want to alert you to is that you always want to, in my videos, you always want to take a look at the description down there and below, because I've put some real treats in there sometimes. And right now I have a bonus that I'm giving away to all the viewers of this video. That is a great bonus. I mean, it's a bonus that literally I spent $8,000 on over the last 5 years, and it's totally yours for free. And it's just, I spent that $8,000 with a different company. And so you can take advantage of this program that I purchased earlier this year, that because of my purchase of this program, you're able to go ahead and jump on board for free and never have to pay a nickel, not even registering a credit card. Learn more about that by clicking in the link. And so anyway, I'll leave it at that for that. But we're going to go ahead and get this going on time here, and because tonight is the last Monday that I am broadcasting live from Seattle for a while, in that I'll be leaving tomorrow and heading my way to Ventura, California, where I live with my other partner. And so I've enjoyed my time here with Chris, and she is a Christmas baby. And so we celebrate her birthday and also Christmas on Christmas Day, and was happy to be able to be here this year to help her to celebrate those 2 events in her life. And so tomorrow I'll be heading back to Seattle, and so that's where I'm going to try to keep it, a little on the short side tonight, so that I can spend just a little more time with Chris before the night's over tonight. And so let's go ahead and get on with the topic of conversation. And again, thank you for joining me here. If you have comments, please, or questions, please make your comments or questions, and I'll be happy to address them. And I guess the other thing I want to say too is that if you have been around and seen my videos before, and you come back because there's some useful information in them for you, then please subscribe to my channel and click on that little bell so that you get notifications. And I appreciate that, and having you view and watch my videos and then be here live with me as well. And so I'll be here next Monday night around between 8 and 8:30. I usually try to get it a little closer to 8 o'clock when I can. And so continue to join me. We're on week 32, and this is a 104-week journey. And so 2 years. And so we're on week 32 out of 104 weeks. And so I'm really grateful to have you here. So let's go ahead and get started with tonight's material. And that is really picking up from where we left off last week. And that is that last week, if you remember, and be sure to go back and watch the last 2 weeks Monday night reports, weekly reports. If you haven't seen those, we'll go back and watch those. Last week, I talked about having an abundant ocean in your life. And so it's going to be really a focal point of tonight's material that I go over. And so you want to make sure that you'll understand that abundant ocean. I'll touch on a little bit here tonight, so you can have a little bit of an idea if you didn't catch last week's, but do go back and really catch last week's full, I think it was a little over an hour long conversation that we had, so that you can dial in this whole idea of creating an abundant ocean in your life. And so then we left with, after dialing in and talking about what that abundant ocean is, we left off with the question then, and that question is, how long does it take to begin to use the power of your words in such a way so that you can create and have the life that you love the most, taking you to your abundant ocean, which is full of satisfaction and pleasure in sex and relationships, work and wealth, and health and wellness? How long does it take? And so tonight I'm going to dive into that question. And in answering that question, there are 5 parts that you need to be aware of. And it's kind of like, how long does it take, to do some things? Well, once you've got all the preparation work done and what have you out of the way, like how long does it take to bake a cake? I could say, well, you put it in the oven and it takes maybe, 35 minutes to bake the cake. But if you're making that cake from scratch, or if you're making the cake from a box mix, it's going to make a big difference as to the full amount of time that goes into, because of all the prep work that has to be done before you bake that cake. And so that's kind of like how it is with this too, that there's prep work that needs to be done before you actually are ready to be put in the oven, so to speak. And I'm going to talk about that prep work. And there are 5 parts that I'm going to be talking about. And the first 4 parts are needing to be in place before you can start to bake your cake, so to speak. Okay, and once that takes place, then you're really just 1 to 2 days away from being able to take and understand and realize the power of your words for having your life be flowing to that abundant ocean. And so once all the parts are in place, particularly once the first 4 parts are in place, then you can use the power of your words in order to create the life that you love the most. And after that, then it's only a matter of time and trusting the structure that you are flowing in before you are swimming in your abundant ocean. And I'll be explaining that a little more in detail here as we go along tonight. But let me go ahead and just do an overview of the 5 parts to this that we need to put in place here. Part 1 is where will the river flow to take you to? I'm going to go into each part in a little more detail in a few moments here, but I just want to quickly go over the 5 parts. So where will the river flow and take you to? Part 2, needing a magnetic guidance system with a built-in GPS. Part 3, have a teacher and coach, or it can be the same person or different people, but a teacher or coach helping you to develop and learn to use your guidance system, taking you to the river, which has the structure needed, taking you to the abundant ocean. And so I'll go into more detail of that. And then part 4 is getting into trusting and staying in flow state. Part 5, reaching your abundant ocean following the 3-part process of reframing, transforming, and liberating. So then, to answer the question, and how long does it take? It can happen in 1 day from now. And it can also take you years to get there, or you can never get there. Again, kind of like baking that cake. It may only take 35 minutes once it gets in the oven to bake that cake. But, you may never get the ingredients from the store to ever bake that cake. So if you don't have the right ingredients, you're never going to bake that cake. And so it really depends on how well that you allow these 5 parts and the material that's in these 5 parts, and how well you allow that material, about the power of your words, to make a life-changing impact in your life. And so one of the things that I suggest to you in order to keep that process moving forward is to keep reviewing the videos in this series, going back to video 1 and then video 2, and this is the 3rd video in the series, and keep reviewing them until you finally get it. Because sometimes, you know, anyways, I'm this way. I mean, some people, like, you know, like, I don't know, I guess I get in relationship with smart people in my life. And Chris, she gets things really fast, and so does Kat. And but for me, it just takes a while sometimes to kind of process in my brain and to sink in and really get in there. And so, you know, for you, then I don't know how long that is going to take, but keep reviewing the whole video series until you finally get it. And so creating and having the life that you love the most can start in 2 days when you implement all 5 parts that we're going to be talking about tonight, or it can take you the rest of your life. We're going to show you some shortcuts. I'm going to talk about some shortcuts here tonight. And so how long it really takes is really totally up to you. And I don't know you as a person, and whether you're somebody like me that sometimes just takes a little longer to get things in the head and process until you finally get it. Or if someone like, you know, like my 2 partners, where it's just like, oh yeah, I get that, and you just take off with it. And so I can't answer that part for you, but once you get the 5 parts that I'm going to talk about tonight, once you kind of get to where you really get it, then it's just a matter of a day or 2 before you start to take and create the life that you love, and actually living in the life that you love the most. And so you'll understand here that as I go along here tonight. So let's get into those 5 parts. And I'm going to do that by talking about using an analogy. And I use an analogy taking you through each of the 5 parts, so for you to be able to understand each part as it needs to be in place, which you can put in place quickly so you can begin living the life you love the most very quickly. Or again, you may need to go through and watch the videos a few times before it really sinks in. And so let's dig into part 1. In part 1, and I may get to all 5 parts tonight. Excuse me. I may not. I may only get to through part 3. I'm going to definitely get through part 3. I'm just watching the time really careful, and I don't want to be going over, because the more time that I take tonight, then that's more time I'm really taking away from Chris, being that this is her last night with me for a while. And so I'm going to go ahead and be watching my time quickly or carefully. And I'm going to at least get through 3 parts of the 5, and then we'll pick up next week where we left off. And so if I can get through all 5, that'd be great, but I'm not counting on it. So let's start with right here with part 1, and where will the river flow and take you to? Let's start talking about that a little bit. And so you want to desire to go somewhere or have something that is not part of your life today. You know, and that is where then you can actually make some flow and get somewhere in your life that you're not today. If you are the kind of person that you just, you know, life is everything you ever dreamed it to be, and you're just like your health and wellness is right where you want it to be. Your sex and relationships, and that's not just your romantic relationships, but that's all of your relationships, your friendships, your professional connections, and things of that nature, you know, all of your relationships, if those are right where you want them to be, and you just can't even imagine them getting any better, and you don't want them to change or get any better, so you just want to stay stuck right where you are today, then you can skip watching this video, because this is not going to speak to you. But this is really for the person that has been coming along on this journey with me, and that, yes, there are things in your life that you have desire for that you don't have today. You know, those things maybe, like, you know, maybe you want to have more sex with more people more often. is what a common thing I talk about here. And maybe then you want to have more relationships in your life. And whether it be, like, for instance, one of the things that is important to me is to really upgrade my friendships even. And that I want to be friends, not with the people maybe that aren't going anywhere in life. They're fine people, they're good people. There's nothing wrong with being friends with them, and I don't mind being friends with them. But I want to spend, I've got this little formula. I want to spend a third of my time with people. This would be my time with friends and people I'm having sex with. This would be my time with professional connections as well. And so a third of that would be spent then with people who are much farther along than I am. So for instance, just take the area of health and wellness. I really focus on trying to create connections in my life with people who are in better shape and skinnier and who have better eating plans than I do. When I can look at their bodies, and say, well, wow, that's a nice body, whether it be a man or a woman. I can look at the body and say it's a nice body. And then I can, also then find, because nice body doesn't necessarily mean that they're healthy, but then I start talking about their health and their wellness. And if it's a person that I feel like that I can really benefit from by being around that person, where it'll help me to get thinner, it'll help me to get healthier and continue. I mean, for 63 years old, I'm doing great, but I want to make it to 120 years old and doing great. I know people think that's crazy today, but I don't think it's crazy. And so I plan on making it to 120 years old and having, still having really great sex at least 3-4 times a week. And so, that's where I need to work on this whole bit of my body and stuff, and make sure that it's going in the right direction and not going in the wrong direction. And so, the other thing is that, like what I'm working on, the most of my focus right now gets put on my income and shifting my income, and so it's you're working your wealth, and this is where less work is more. Less is more, and that less work will give you more ability to create more wealth. And so, I like one of the people that I hang out with works 17 hours a week, 10 to 17 hours. But he says 17 is kind of where he draws the line, and that's because he read a book a number of years ago about the 4-hour work week. And he says, how can that be? And he has 32 full-time employees in the Philippines that work for him, even though he hasn't been to the Philippines since 2010. And yet he has 32 full-time employees there, and they just make his life easy. And that's really what we're talking about here, is having a life that is not only ethically and consensually non-monogamous, but because I see a lot of people have an ethically and consensually non-monogamous life, and I lived this way myself, which then it's not an easy life. And so we want to help you to create an easy life that is a liberated life, that's also a fun life. And so that's our aim here at Non-Monogamous Lifestyles Association and this weekly video chat that we do. And so, you need to be able to think about, what is it then that I want? Part one, where will the river flow to and take you to? What is it that I want? And so, for you then, it may be in sex and relationships, it may be in health and wellness, it may be like myself in your financial arena as well. And that I am transitioning my financial arena, my financial world, to where I can develop and have a very solid income online. And I don't want to live the rest of my life with the income that I've got coming into my life now. It's like, okay, I could get by on that, but I don't want to get by. Do you? And so, I want to be able to take and do some great things. One of the things we've talked about lately is I need $200,000 a month or $10 million, either way. But I figure it's going to cost me $10 million to create this record label, a record music company that is going to totally transform our culture and help to use music in order to make non-monogamy, ethical and consensual non-monogamy, to be part of the cultural norms that we have, so that we're not just in mononormative culture, but we can be in a culture where, just like the LGBT community is getting a lot better acceptance now, people living an ECNM life can have the same thing. But that's going to take a lot of money, but I'm working away towards getting there so that I can have $10 million to pour into that if that's what it takes. And so then you want to desire to go somewhere or have something that is not part of your life today. You want to be clear and specific about what you want. It needs to be a true choice, increasing your satisfaction and pleasure in all three of the areas of your life. And so, in other words, it needs to be something that's going to increase the satisfaction and pleasure that you have in your sex and relationships, also your work and wealth, and your health and wellness. Because, like myself, many of my years of my life, it's like you make sacrifices. And these choices of true choice should not be something where you are sacrificing one area of your life for another. People sacrifice, for instance, their work and they sacrifice most often, their sex and relationships and their health and wellness in order to go out and do really good at work and then earn a paycheck. They're not even getting wealthy. They're just earning a good paycheck, and so they sacrifice their sex life and their sex and relationships, and they sacrifice their health and their wellness for that. I talk to people all the time that with their health and the wellness, they just feel trapped. They don't know how else they can live their life anyway what they're living their life, and because of the demands on them, the stress that they're under, and things they've got to do for the job and keep bringing that paycheck in and things like that. But there are better ways. And it starts with the power of your words and going through the things that we're talking about here. And so then in really making this clear picture, again, part one, where will the river flow and take you to? You want to decide where that river, what that looks like, but then you want to write it down, and you want to make sure that the detail is written down so it's not subjective, but it's very clear and specific. And then that place is going to be taking you to an abundant ocean that's far away from everything you know and want. Everything you know and you want is in that ocean. And so you just got to understand that there's an ocean out there that we talked about last week, that that you're going to be having all this stuff waiting for you when you get to that ocean. And you cannot get there. The thing is, with this analogy I'm going to be using here, you can't get there on land. And just follow along with the analogy, and just to understand that you can't get there on land. It would just take you far too long to ever get there on land. And so, like many others, you would die before getting there. And so instead, you must get in a boat, and you have to flow down a river to get to that ocean. And so that's then part one. And part two then is about needing a magnetic guidance system with a built-in GPS. And so let me just pause real quick to see if anybody has any questions on part one. And if you do, put them in the comment section real quick, and I'll take a look at the comments and answer any questions that you have. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions, and so I'm going to move on to part two so we can keep moving along here. And part two is needing a magnetic guidance system with a built-in GPS. So here you are, you're on the land, and you're not near any rivers right now. That's the picture I'm building here for this analogy. And there are a lot of rivers that you can go down, but not all of those rivers are going to take you to the ocean, to your ocean of abundance. Some of those rivers will take people to a different ocean, and it's their ocean of abundance, because their ocean maybe is not the same as your ocean. And so, but there's lots of rivers that you can go down. And not all the rivers are going to take you to the abundance ocean that is the one that you want. And you have to understand that. And then you must figure out what river that you're going to take and get into a boat and go down. Imagine then that you're out there driving, like this summer, went for a drive. Chris and I went out for a drive, and we were driving around a mountain in Oregon. And it was we took a week and we went camping at a nudist resort where we could totally socially isolate ourselves and be nobody else around and not worry about it and about the whole COVID thing, what have you. But one day we took a drive and we kind of went driving around this mountain, and there were lots of rivers that we went by. And those rivers all drain out somewhere, some into lakes and some just kind of dead end, and some of them then drain out into the ocean. And imagine then those rivers, there's many of them out there, and some of them drain into ocean, but there's more than one ocean they can drain into as well. And not all of the oceans are your ocean. And so you have to figure out what river to get into a boat and go down. And just imagine then as you're driving around, you see a river, you could stop and there's a boat there waiting for you to hop into and start heading down. But do you want to just get into a random boat on a random river and start flowing down, not knowing where it's going to take you or what's ahead? I mean, there may be, a 200-foot waterfall, and so you certainly want to avoid things like that. And so you want to know then, you want to have a guidance system, and I'm going to talk about a magnetic guidance system to be specific that has a built-in GPS. And you go to, and another thing that I've experienced, because you can go down the wrong river and you'll have to then turn around once you get down that wrong river and figure, well, okay, I've got to get back up the river. That means that you've either got to get back on shore and then take and do the arduous task of hiking through the woods and what have you, or you got to turn your boat around and you got to paddle upstream, and it's going to be a lot of work. And so sometimes when you go down the wrong river, that it just takes a lot of work to get back so that you can get on the right river. I've been there, in my life. I've gone down these wrong rivers. And because I didn't always understand this whole idea of a magnetic guidance system with a built-in GPS, did not understand that. And so I just went down these rivers randomly thinking, okay, well, I guess this is how I'm supposed to live my life, and didn't understand the tools that were available to me. And these are the tools that I'm talking about here in this series. And that's the power. It starts with the power of your words. And so the magnetic GPS, or the magnetic guidance system that has a built-in GPS in it, will keep you from going down the wrong river, and will tell you what rivers go where, so that you'll get in the correct boat to take you on the correct river and then head downstream. And so likely you've already been down a few wrong rivers yourself in your life. Maybe with your sex and relationships, or your work and your wealth, where you tried things, where in your sex and relationships, you tried to, have more sex with more people more often, and something went bad, didn't work out, and with your work and your wealth, maybe, you had some dreams and, you started and you tried some different things and that didn't work out. And then your health and wellness, my gosh, the doctor told me I just needed to take these pills, and they just create more dependence for you. And so we're going to be telling you, we're talking about, because our elf life is easy, it's liberating, and it's fun. And liberating means then that you can liberate yourself sexually and liberate your relationships. That doesn't mean that you're going to end your relationships. I've liberated my relationships, both my primary two partners. I've liberated my relationship with them, but I haven't ended my relationship. Just that we had to come to different understandings from where we began. And so liberating your relationship, same thing with liberating your work and your wealth. And that's what I'm going through now and reporting to you each week here. And then liberating your health and your wellness as well. Because you see, the society around us creates dependence and obligation and limitations and restrictions. And so we want to liberate you from all of that so that you can enjoy going down that river. And so there are these rivers that take you to the ocean that is the abundant ocean for you. And maybe you've even given up a few times, maybe you tried something and after that didn't work out. So you tried and you stopped and you didn't even keep looking for another river to go down. You just gave up, and you says, no, just this just doesn't work, or I can't do it. And all kinds of different, again, the power of your words really create that, so that you end up stopping, particularly if you don't have this magnetic guidance system with a built-in GPS that's there to help you. Then you end up making so many mistakes that you just think it's no use. I'll never get to my abundant ocean, and it doesn't even exist for me. It exists for other people, but not for me. And that's, again, your abundant ocean, where you can have more sex with more people more often, where you can have more wealth with less work. You can have better health and wellness, things of this nature. Okay. And so, yes, there's an abundant ocean there for you. And I want to help you to get there. And it helps to tap into this magnetic guidance system that has a built-in GPS. Let's see here. Where am I at? You go back and see if there's any comments or questions at this point. Okay. No questions so far. So we'll keep on going. What happens then is, when you've gone down a few of the wrong rivers a few times, is that you finally get to where, that you just kind of give up, and yet you still want to enjoy your life, and so you end up filling your life with lots of stuff. You're living in the land of scarcity. Scarcity sexually, scarcity with the relationships that you have, scarcity with your wealth, scarcity with your health. It's a depleting resources, not something that keeps you going, and so it's where then you live in this land of scarcity, and you end up, what happens is you end up filling your life up with things that complicate your life rather than keeping it simple. You don't have an easy life. You don't have a liberated life. You don't have a fun life, because what created was obligating, dependent, limiting, restricting. And so that's the life that you end up creating when you're not tapped into this magnetic guidance system with a built-in GPS system. And I'll be getting into where I've talked about that system. So you're creating an increase and as you're building the life, then what you're doing is you're creating a life where you're increasing your expenses as well, because you want to be able to have this great, you want to be able to have this great life, but how do you really do it? And you try to filling yourself and being fulfilled with things that really just create more expense, and those things that you end up creating more expense with, they also then create not only more expense, but they create more obligation, and then you've got to take care of this stuff. I mean, I've been through this. I've spent the last, well, not last year, but prior to that, 3 years of my life just cleaning, because I've gone down the wrong river, and I had to then get out of the boat and hike through the woods. It took me 3 years to get back to where I could start flowing down the correct river again. And I want to help you to either be at the place like where I was 4 years ago, where you finally say, well, wait a minute, okay, it's time to stop and get out of this boat. And so that may mean that I gotta hike through the woods. It may take me a couple of years to hike through the woods so that I can get back on track with things. But let me tell you, it's so worth it taking that hike through the woods, because otherwise you just keep filling up your life with more expense, more complication, and it's not a life that's ever going to be really creating more satisfaction and more pleasure in your life. And so you got to just, at some point, you got to just decide, okay, I can't just keep going down in the boat down this river. It's the wrong river to be in. And so I'm going to get out of the boat, and I'm going to start hiking up through the woods and on the shore and what have you, and get back to where I can start getting in a different boat and go down a different river. One of the things is that when you're on that wrong river, that you have less satisfaction and pleasure in life. And that's where things just start to agitate you easily, and find that you don't have the same loving, kind, caring. This is my I'm talking the life that I experienced, but not the life I live today. but the life that I did live years ago. And your personality changes over time, you know, and so you go from being somebody that everybody just loves to be around to someone that maybe only your closest friends and relatives like to be around, and sometimes they don't even like being around you. And so you have less satisfaction and pleasure in your life. You become more stressed and negative, and you start to believe a lot less in yourself because you start to think in those things like, oh, there's no abundant ocean out there for me. You know, it's that abundant ocean, that's for someone else. It's not for me. And so you start to think in those ways, and so there you are. You're just stuck, and it's a long life ahead of you. You know, and you know, whether that life ahead of you, I don't know, you know, your health and what's going to, you're never the same when someone's going to have their last day on earth, but well, you know, that long life ahead of you, I hope that, you know, you've got another 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years. I mean, I'm 63 years old and I'm looking forward to another 57 years. And so if you're younger than 63, you should be looking at least to be getting to 120 years old. And I remember years ago talking to people and they said, I wouldn't want to live even 100 years old. I wouldn't want to live to 90 years old. And the reason why people say that is because they think about getting old and decrepit, where their personality and their mind and their physical body and health goes to pot. That is not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about not getting old and decrepit. I'm talking about loving your life every day to the end of your days. And so that's what we want to help you to create, is that kind of a life. And then, you know, if you can live to your 120 years old, why not do that? And isn't that what you would want as well? You know, and some of you be able to, right, there's some amazing things going on in medical science and discoveries and things in longevity. Something that really didn't focus a lot of attention on until about 5 years ago. And you're going to start seeing some amazing things come out over the next 20 years. And I believe that if you're much younger than I am, you know, if you're in your 20s and 30s, that, yeah, there's going to be, I think, opportunities for you to be able to live till you're 150 years old and actually live a life that you absolutely love, not a decrepit life. But you're going to have to plan for that and think in terms of that at this point in your life. Not wait until, like in my situation, I didn't wake up until I was 49 years old when my marriage went from monogamy to non-monogamy. And I opened my marriage and I started to, you know, discover that, hey, there are women out there that love having sex. Well, then I want to live, you know, and I got a great life I want to live for. But then I realized that I kind of got to, you know, I'd been down the wrong river and I got to make some corrections. And it's taken me, you know, I've been living my non-monogamous life for 13 years. And so it's taken me a long time to kind of even get to where I realized some of the things that I'm talking about, the power of your words and getting in the boat, and some of the five points that I'm making here today, the 5 parts of using the power of your words. So someone then at some point, you can imagine you're on that, you know, the riverbank then, and someone, you know, you've tried it before. You know, you just finally got to a place where you gave up. But then someone like me comes along and says, there's an abundant ocean there for you. And so now you just realize that you're at the wrong river, though. That river that you're on is not going to take you to that abundant ocean. And so you got to get back in the car and you're going to go off to another river. Now, does it make sense to have a guidance system and a map that'll take you to the correct river that you want to be on? Doesn't that make sense? Instead of just driving, like Chris and I, you know, we last summer when we were in Oregon, we didn't have a map or any kind of a guidance system. I knew the area well enough to know that we weren't going to get lost. And we did have a GPS on our phone, so if we totally got lost, it would take us back to our camp. And but a lot of times we didn't even have that because we didn't have a GPS signal out there, data signal for the cell phones and all. And so does it make sense to you, though, that it would be good to have a guidance system and a map taking you to the right river? And so within each one of us, there is a magnetic and an internal GPS system. And it is designed to create tension that gives you the pull that you need in order to connect you with the people, the things, the opportunities that are needed along the way, so that you can share that abundant ocean with them. Because none of us are in this boat alone. And if you want to just think you want to be a hermit somewhere, then all you got to do is find a patch of land, in Montana or Alaska or Arizona or in Costa Rica somewhere in the jungle, and then just a small patch of land where you can just kind of go and be a hermit and hide out. But that's not going to give you more satisfaction and pleasure in your life at all. And so what I'm talking here about is giving you more satisfaction and pleasure. And so in order for that to happen, you got to create the tension that's going to keep pulling you in the direction of where you need to go. Because right now what happens is that, and I'm not going to go into this in detail tonight, but there is a tension that it happens in our brains that keeps pulling us back to where we are right now. And so you go forward a little ways and then you go back. Now, I've known people that have lost, become a millionaire several times over. And they go forward and then they get there and make them great money, but then they lose it all. I myself have lost $3 million. And so it's like in business that I had, and it's this tension, though, that keeps dragging us back to where we were in the beginning. And so you want to create a new tension in your life that's going to pull you in the direction of where you're wanting to go. And that tension connects you with the people, the things, and the opportunities that you need along the way in order to share the abundant ocean with. Like one of the reasons that I come here on Monday nights is that, and the things that I talk about, what have you, is that I want a bunch of people. In fact, one of the things that we're going to be, I'm hoping towards the end of next year to be ready to kick off is what I call Do-Yourself Financial Liberation Club. And that's a club that you'll be able to join. There'll be free memberships available. And so people can join the club and learn how it can be done for you to be able to create financial liberation in your life. And I mean, yes, it sounds like something foreign because, see, you're not taught these things because people will need you to go to work. And so you're not taught how to have the financial liberation in your life. And so we'll be teaching some things and proving that they work, and so that people can come along. Because, one of the things I want to do is my goal is to help 10,000 people who live an ethically and consensually non-monogamous life by 3030 to become financially liberated. They're already living that sexually liberated, ethical, and consensual non-monogamous life. I want to help them to be financially liberated. 10,000 people. When you look at the fact that there's right now 12 to 15 million people in the U.S. living an ethically and consensually non-monogamous life, 10,000 people is just a very small portion of that. And by 2030, I expect that there's going to be at least 25 million people that are living an ethically and consensually non-monogamous life. And so I'm really looking for is 10,000 out of that 25 million. And so just a grain of sand on the beach, so to speak, but so that I can have a lot more fun enjoying satisfaction and pleasure in my life, because I'm a social creature and I want to be able to have a lot of people to be able to enjoy my life with. And so I hope that, maybe that will appeals to you, and you'll keep kind of hanging in here on Monday nights and watching the videos, and you'll end up coming along at some point. But so you want to have that magnetic guidance and system that has an internal GPS system. And that's what that is. That's like a guide. And where can you get into a boat and flow on the right river to take you to your ocean of abundance? So that's what this is all about, making sure that you're on that correct river. Now, the guidance system is your magnetic energy, what we call it is your magnetism in your life. And it propels you, or it empowers you. The propeller of your magnetism is your words. And so that's where I'm being, started 3 weeks ago here, talking about the power of words, because the power of words are the propellers that are really given the power to your magnetic energy and this whole guidance system that is going to take you into the places that you need to go. Now, everybody has this system already in their life. It's encoded into your DNA. It is your magnetism, your magnetic energy. But most learn before they're 30 years old. They learn to cover it up. Like the other things that are in our inner being. Inside our inner being is our divine sexuality, is our genius. And like myself, I was believing that I was dumb until I got into my 40s, where I finally then discovered my real true genius. And I didn't believe I was really like super dumb, but I was a below average student in school, and I believed through my whole life that other than the fact that working hard, that was the only way I was going to ever get ahead, because I just didn't have it up here. That's what I believed about myself, believe it or not. And it was that belief about myself that kept me stuck there. And so this is where then we want to take and start unwrapping the inner being that is you. And part of that is this magnetism and your magnetic energy. Because by the time that we're 30 years old, most of us have learned to cover it up. Perhaps you covered it up because you get into a relationship with someone and where for the rest of your life, you're never again supposed to have more satisfaction and pleasure in your life than what you already have with a partner that you've got. And so you're never supposed to even look at another man or a woman. Have you ever experienced that? Yeah, a lot of people have. And so maybe though for you that there's many other ways that your magnetic energy got covered up. Maybe it came from parents and friends and other people telling you that you cannot have what you want. So stop dreaming. And maybe it was where it came from your failures and seeing failure as a dream killer rather than an opportunity to learn and be better and have a stepping stone. A failure is just nothing more than a stepping stone along the way to your success when you use that failure in the right way. So perhaps though that it came, the covering up of this magnetic energy in your life that has this built-in GPS system. Perhaps it came from one of the self-sabotaging patterns that Kat and I work with people in our coaching programs. And there are 6 self-sabotaging patterns that we work with all the time. And that is, those patterns are, people believe I'm just not good enough. I'm not capable. I'm not perfect. I'm not worthy. That was for me for some time here. I didn't believe I was worthy. And also not being capable. I felt that very strong, so, and then I'm insignificant. A lot of people get feeling that they're just insignificant and they don't matter. And I'm disconnected. I'm just not in the right place at the right time, and I don't know the right people, and I'm just disconnected. And those are the sabotaging patterns that most people experience one or more of. And so it's really, those patterns are what cover up that magnetic energy in your life that has that built-in GPS system that is really your guidance system. And so you want to uncover your magnetic energy and keep random. You can uncover your magnetic energy, or you can keep randomly trying to find the right river. So it makes sense to uncover your magnetic energy, and understand that as you start the process, and this is the process that you started here with me in going through this series. And so, but just understand that mistakes are going to always be made. Make room for your mistakes in life and don't beat yourself up about it. You just learn from it, and then you become better from it. That's what mistakes are there for. They're actually, mistakes develop the part of the genius within us so that we create this creative energy within us so that we come up with new great ideas. Mistakes are part of the process. If it weren't for making mistakes, we would never come up with these new great inventions and great ideas that we come up with. And so allow yourself to make mistakes and just know that that's an important part of the process. And so your magnetic energy, that with this built-in GPS system, it has to be discovered, it has to be explored, it has to be experienced, it has to be developed, learned about, tapped into, and harnessed. Again, there are elements of our inner being. One of those elements is our divine sexuality. And you can imagine, by the time we're 30, most of us cover that up. And, it starts when you're a kid, you learn that, oh, wow, I guess I can't, enjoy myself sexually. And so then suddenly, a lot of people, they get to be, away from home and high school and college age, things like this. And they start to say, well, I'm just going to secretly discover my sexuality, and I'm going to explore it, and I'm going to experience it. I'm going to then develop it, and I'm going to learn about it. I'm going to tap into it, and I'm going to harness it. But then for most people, by the time they're 30, they start covering it back up again because they want to be normal, and so they start conforming is what it does. And conformity will kill your inner being. And so your magnetic energy is the same way, where you're born with this magnetic energy, with this built-in guidance system, this GPS system. And, what happens in time, though, is that you cover it up, and then because through conformity, you end up just burying it. It's not, you can never really kill it. It's always going to be there, and it's there for you to then uncover it and then discover it and explore it and experience it and develop it and learn about it, tap into it and harness it. It's there for you today. Now, I'm going to get on here with part number 3, and it looks like I'm going to wrap up at that point because we're right now into past 45 minutes. But I do want to get into part 3 here, and that is, it goes with parts 1 and 2, ties in very closely. And then we pick up with part number 4. They have a teacher coach that's you to develop and learn how to use your guidance system. It's been buried and it's been covered up, and so part 3 is then to take and get yourself a teacher or a coach that's going to help you to tap into it and to be able to take and start to release it, uncover it. And once that teacher and that coach, having that teacher and coach is like having someone there in your car with you, that as you're driving around the mountain looking for the right river to go down, they're right there helping you to get there. And I got to tell you, though, that it was 12 years ago, 10 years ago, 11 years ago, I started a non-monogamous hiking group here in Seattle. And we started going hiking and doing a lot of regular hiking. And I told Chris, I said, boy, it'd be really great to have a really good handheld GPS system. And so this is a Garmin 400. And when Chris bought it, it was really the top of the line at that point. And so, I was just so sweet of her to get this Garmin. And in fact, it looks like a Garmin 450T. And so the thing is that we got it. Now, it doesn't come with maps on it. Unlike, the GPS systems in your phone, car, and so forth, there's no maps because you can't possibly know what trail maps, and the trail maps are so detailed, you can't possibly, there's so many trails all around the world, the Garmin can't know what maps you're going to want for this. And so they don't put any maps in there. And so you've got to first then learn how to download maps. And I tried figuring out how to do that, and I just couldn't get it figured out. And so then REI, sporting goods store, REI, which is headquartered here in Seattle, they started here in Seattle, they have classes where you can learn all about your Garmin 400, learn about downloading maps, learn about how to use it, and it'll do wonderful things. But you know what? I was just too cheap to do that. And here we are now, 10 years later. How many times do you think this has been out on a hike with us, helping us. We used to go snowshoeing once in a while, and when you snowshoe in the backcountry, if you don't have something like this and have a good map and compass skills, it's easy to get lost because you don't have a trail. And so do you think that this has been out there on snow treks with us, or even hikes with us in the mountains and through the forest? Not one time, because I was just too cheap to invest the money to go down and sign up for one of the classes that REI offers, and so that's one of the things that when after COVID, because this is still a great GPS system. So after COVID, I've learned my lesson finally. I'm not going to be cheap anymore. And so that this tool that Chris spent a lot of money for is going to actually be put in use. And but I'm going to have to learn how to do that. And so the thing is with your part of this, your part 3 is to have about having a teacher or a coach. It'll save you time. It'll save you mistakes. And without it, you may never reach your abundant ocean. Wouldn't it be worth reaching your abundant ocean, or at least having the opportunity to get to your abundant ocean, to go ahead and have that teacher and that coach? And so having used a good guidance system, you get on the river, and this time it can take you to your abundant ocean. And that's what we want to help you to do. And so, like I said, I'm going to end the session here tonight with this real quick here. I'm going to flip over to the part that I do my review every week, but it's going to be a fast review tonight. And so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen to do that review. And let me just get here and get that going. Okay, so, and my computer made it disappear. Okay, there we go. And so the video report card, every week we try to help you to make the transitions that you want to have in your life so that you can thrive in living an ethically and consensually non-monogamous life that you create and love the most. And that's what I'm hoping, is that you won't, like myself, that you want to have more sex with more people more often. And you want to create this magnetic elf life, and that's an easy, liberated, fun life. And it'll give you more satisfaction and pleasure. And that's the test that we help you to take and start learning about. And that's where next week we'll be talking even more about this. And that is where you use your satisfaction and pleasure as a test. You're either increasing your satisfaction and pleasure and going the right direction, or you're not increasing your satisfaction and pleasure, which is then going the wrong direction. It's like going down that river. Like sometimes we get years down the river, and then we find that we've got to hike through the woods to get back to the river that's going to increase our satisfaction and pleasure. And so I've been there, and I hope that you don't spend a lot of time doing that I can save you some time from doing that as well. And that's why we offer coaching as well. But so the weekly topics this week on December 28th, 2020, was week 32 of the 108-week journey. And the topic is the 5 parts needed for tapping into the power of your words. And part 3 of the broader topic, or this is the 3rd week in the series for the broader topic of the power of your words. And there's homework I have for you this week, like I do all weeks. And so that is this week. I'm going to take you a little more time to do that. And then I really want you to take some time sitting down, if you, for not only the last 3 weeks talking about the power of your words, but for about the last 4 weeks before that. So going back 7 weeks now, we've been talking about how and giving you the tools in order for you to be able to design your life. And that's where it's all going to start, is you having a written design for your life. If you don't have a written design, how can you go out and build anything of any significance without some kind of a design to get you started? And so you want to have, in writing this design, you want to go ahead and write out, what is it then that you want in your sex and in your relationships? What is it that you want in your work and your wealth? What is it that you want in your health and your wellness? Then the other 3 parts of the assignment, the homework is the same thing as we did last week, is that I'm going to ask you to go ahead and subscribe to the email list. And if you haven't already, there is a link down there in the description box. So subscribe to the email list. And then this week, there'll be some emails coming out, and read through those emails. But one of the things is that Kat's been doing for the month of December a 31-day relationship challenge, where there's a short write-up every day for 31 days, and also then a video that she makes to go along with that. And so she really talks a lot about these same things, but goes into greater detail. And so I really want you to go ahead and benefit from that. It's our free gift for the month of December. And I say it's our gift. She creates the content, but I spent a lot of time. I spent all day today, in fact, creating an email that went out today, and then another one that'll be going out in a couple more days from now. And it takes a lot of my time in doing those things. And so I really want you to benefit from that, and that it's our gift for you during this month of December. And so then going on, just to give you an update on myself then. Skipping on down here, this is what I call my 3 things. The 3 things that I'm working on last week, it was getting my dental appointments done, because of being here in Seattle. I don't have, my dental insurance isn't any good in California. And so I got to get my dental work done and stuff like that when I'm here in Seattle. So I give myself a check off on that. Get my Christmas shopping done. That was a big one last week, and I'll give a check off on that, and then take some time off to enjoy being with Chris and her kids. And so give myself a check off on that. And so then on my business wise, talking about every week where I'm continuing to work on bookkeeping. I spent about a day and a half last week working on bookkeeping, maybe even 2 full days. And so I'm going to give myself a check on that. Like I said, it's going to be something that's going to be ongoing yet for probably through the month of January before I get all my bookkeeping caught up. And so I give myself a check on that for last week, though. I'm starting a program called Ad Outreach. I don't want to go into details on this yet, but it's a program where it costs me $1,000 a week to be in this program. And so it's a big investment, the biggest investment I've really ever made for coaching, because that's all it is. It's coaching and training and teaching. And it's $1,000 a week for teaching and coaching. And so I'm very excited about that, and got started with that then last week. And then my objective last week of my completing my magnetic mindset certification, that I did a little bit of work on that last week, but it did not get completed by any means. And so I give myself a fail. So I got 2 out of 3 last week, things that are really accomplished. So then what are we doing? What am I looking at then this week for my 3 things? So personally, then I'm looking at, I need to replace the headlight on my car. I bought the headlight like 2 weeks ago, and I haven't replaced it yet, because you got to get into a tight spot and all that kind of stuff. But obviously with me driving then from leaving tomorrow and driving to Ventura, I want to have 2 good headlights on my car, and I'll be doing some night driving. And so I'm going to get that headlight replaced. So I'll probably replace it when I take a break. It'll make a good break. I got tools and stuff in the car, and I can get all that done. And so that's one goal for me personally this week. And then driving to Ventura will be another thing. And so I get to some warmer and drier weather. And then once I get to Ventura, I want to get unpacked. Now, you think, why make that as a goal? It's because oftentimes I got 2 bags that I carry back and forth with me, and oftentimes I never get them unpacked. I haven't gotten them unpacked for the last 2 trips I've made, and finally here in Seattle this time I did some unpacking. And I think I did do some unpacking in Ventura a little bit last time, but not to really get unpacked. And so that's where I decided, okay, I really need to set this as a goal to get unpacked, get my stuff sorted, because there's work that needs to be done in that stuff, and so I need to get unpacked. And so business-wise then, this week, I'm going to be wanting to dive in and get organized with how I'm going to really get my $1,000 a week, my money's worth out of this program that I'm in, and for Ad Outreach. So I want to get kind of organized with that. I want to keep doing some more bookkeeping, so worked on getting that done this week. Plus, then I want to dive into a YouTube program that I have where it helps me to create a new YouTube channel in order to drive traffic to. I'm creating a new YouTube channel. It's not about ethical and consensual non-monogamy. So I will be telling you a little bit about it when the weeks come along, but it's not about ethical and consensual non-monogamy. It's really just about making money online. And so I'll be creating that channel. And so if some of you want to join me over there, then you can do that. But I purchased a special program that will help me to actually grow my numbers with that channel. And then I'll use that same program to grow my subscribers with my Freedom Seekers community as well. And so those are my goals for this week. I hope you have your goals for this week yourself, and so that you'll have a really great week, last week of the year. And so thanks for being part of my audience here. And I didn't make it to 45 minutes, but I made it to an hour. And so I'm going to sign off here, and we'll see you next year. And have a happy new year.